Right, welcome back to another one of my videos. I've been out on rallies the last 2 weekends, so now it's time to give a little TLC. She ran really well the weekend, well rather last weekend, because she's been laid up for a little bit having a rest. But I've got my heat strip on the side. Before I'm going to clean the engine now and put some new ones on. But first of all, we're just going to have a look at the temperature that my engine casing got to. It's been hovering around the 93 mark, as you can see, just teetering on a 93, but then it's popped up now. It missed 99 for some reason. It must be something with the heat strip, and it's gone up to 104 Celsius, 219 Fahrenheit. Not good. Right, we're going up the mountain into Rhondda, and we pulled over a little bit, put my coat on because it was a bit nippy, and I was monitoring the temperature all the way up, and she was running around 70 degrees Celsius. So as soon as we stopped, I just noticed my temperature go straight up to 120. So I'm thinking, that's heat saturation, because the whole engine is a lot hotter. I'm getting cooling on the head, and it's controlling the head, but my engine, once you've stopped it, all that heat's now come straight back up to the head, and it was at 120. And I'm thinking, that's not good, is it? So basically, just as I've been thinking before, is your heat, as you're traveling, the longer and longer you run the engine, the more the heat penetrates the rest of the engine casing. So the whole engine block just gets hotter and hotter. That's what I noticed when I stopped the engine. The temperature just shot up immediately, showing that I've got a lot of heat. That might have gone up to 104 on the side casing here. But I would say in the middle, crank and lower end of the barrel was probably around about 120, which came up, that instantly came up to the top of the engine. So I'd like to be able to monitor this a bit better. So we're going to add another temperature sensor to another part of the engine. Before I can do anything else, like put stickers on and things on that's going to sense the temperature, I need to clean it. So I'm going to go ahead and clean the engine now. Get everything as clean as I possibly can, because dirt insulates and it makes your engine hotter. So a clean engine will remain cooler. Right, giving the engine a bit of a clean off. I've also been in and adjusted my chain while you were not watching, but still. A few other little bits. Now we can stick on heat sensitive little stickers. So we're going to put another one on right next to that old one. So I'll give us a reference, one to the other, and we'll see exactly how we're performing, and if this now is any different with a few of the changes that I've made to increase the cooling. And we're going to fit another Norksy on, second Norksy, and I'm going to add that Norksy on at the back here, so it gives me case temperature, so we can see cylinder head temperature coming up, and then a delayed effect. Casing will come up later, and let's see if the casing overtakes the cylinder. Okay, so I've got two sensor strips on here now. The old one to keep as a reference so we can see just the difference between the two, and a new strip on, and we'll see where the engine case gets to on that. I've also now added another Norksy temperature sensor, so I've now got another one on my filler plug. That's going to give me an overall temperature engine basically behind the cylinder on the engine casing. So let's see how we get on with this. We'll go for a ride out in a bit. I'll show you my display now, so it's easy to read up the top there, so we can take readings as we go along pretty easy. Okay, now for a little test drive. We'll just warm the engine up. As you can see today, we're at an ambient temperature
of 20 degrees. So the casing and engine started off everything at 20 degrees. We're already up to 23, 24 on the cylinder head. That's really quick. Within just a few seconds the temperature of the head goes up, and look at the casing, it's already up by 2 degrees. So we'll just warm the engine up a little bit first so we can get a good riding temperature throughout the engine. Right, let's give it a little bit of warm up. Okay, then we're already up to 35, 32, and we're only like 5 or 6 minutes into the ride. So the engine casing is already responding really well. I mean, I'm really surprised when I did this test how quickly the heat got into the casing. But we'll see as the ride goes along how things respond and how the engine heat starts dispersing through the engine. 36 on the head now, 35 on the casing. That's because the head is getting really efficient cooling. Otherwise, on another bike, that head would have been up much higher by now. With that MMW fan on and the centre cone and my cowlings, the head gets an immense amount of air blown over it, and it really keeps it cool. So we've now got the casing and the head at the same temperature. So I'm expecting, if things go as I plan, that the casing will overtake the cylinder head, because there's no cooling efficiency on the casing. And there you go, 38 on the casing now. So now the engine casing is getting even hotter than the cylinder head, because the cylinder head's got efficient cooling and this engine casing hasn't, but it's still absorbing heat. It's still getting heat down from the cylinder all the way down into the casing. So it's like a giant heat sink. It's taking away heat from your cylinder and drawing it into the casing. But the thing is, as you ride and ride, that casing just gets to saturation point. It can't take any more heat. So then your cylinder has got nowhere to put the heat except for the head. So then you're relying solely on the head for cooling and taking away the airflow and the heat away from your engine. So you really need to keep temperatures down on your engine and efficient cooling. I really believe that engine casing should have more finnage on there to remove more heat, because they're not just a giant heat sink. Lambrettas really suffer. They're a 1960s design. They're very old. The actual air cooling was designed just to go around villages in Italy, a few little bits of shopping, not sitting on motorways and hammering them at 70 mile an hour at constant speeds. So you really need to improve on the cooling. Water cooling makes a huge difference, but look at the temperatures now. The casing's now at 55 degrees. So what we'll do is we'll give it a good fistful down the dual carriageway and see what we can get it coming up to. So we're 48 now. I mean, the temperature today is quite cool. There's a lot of humidity in the air, so it's all helping to keep the engine cool. So we're up to 50 degrees now. Normally I'm getting like 70 degrees on the cylinder head on a run out, but I would have thought the casing would be coming much hotter inside, because it sort of absorbs the heat in there and it maintains, whereas the cylinder head is constantly taking heat away, and that's the most efficient part of your cooling, is your head. Right, we'll get ourselves back to the garage and do a few more tests then, shall we? Right, come back in. You can see the casing's 64. It's really not gone up much from 64 yet. We've been out 15 minutes, but you see the head's only 45 degrees. These ain't bullshit temperatures. These are correct. Right, we're going to turn it off now, and we're going to watch what happens to the temperature on the head. Now I've turned the engine off. 64 on the casing, 46 on the head. Ooh, it's coming up fast. Now all the temperature from the casing's now moving up, and we'll see if we've got any other heat
elsewhere that's hovering around 51. Now what I want to see is whether the head actually goes higher than the casing. Therefore we know that the actual barrel and down in the bottom of the crankcase is even hotter than where our filler plug is. So let's see, or whether it just evens out. There we go. So the internals of the engine are even hotter, and it's still going up. It's slowing down, so it's going to come. Oh, and the casing's starting to cool now. That's gone down to 62. It's gone down 1 degree. So we'll see where it tops out. I reckon it's going to top out around 70. $72, and it's still going up. I would imagine the heat from the crown of the piston is now emitting it towards the head, depending on how close the piston's stopped to the head. I suppose that could vary. If the piston stopped very close up towards top dead centre, then it's going to emit lots of heat into the head, and that's where that heat's coming from now, probably from the crown of the piston coming up into the head. But we can see we've still got lots of heat there, but our heads and our cooling system's really efficient. I mean, when we're running, it's taking the heat away, the head's staying really cool, the casing's not gone up too bad. So we know we've got extra heat inside the engine, but it's not particularly that bad today. On a hotter day it would be worse, and on a longer run it'd be even worse. So that's not too bad. I think that's it, 73. Right, yes, we've been out, and now I've just put it back up on the ramp. The engine's still pretty hot. Let's have a look. So it's come down a little bit, 71. It was on 73, I believe, and 57. So it's now, the engine's just starting to cool a little bit. But we'll go around and compare temperatures. So on the bottom of the barrel, I'm getting now, if I can keep it still, 61. Top of the cylinder head, 64. Down by my casing, 52. Back end of the casing, 48. So the whole casing's gradually heating up. I think if we'd have been, we need to go for a much longer ride to get a lot more heat around the casing, and you'll see that it's going to absorb a lot more. But you can just see how much heat is being absorbed into the engine as you ride it, and then that heat is hard to get rid of, because the only thing that's cooling basically is your barrel and your head. So that your head's being the most efficient part of it, and that has to take away all that heat, and it just can't do it. So I believe more cooling should have been added to the actual engine casing itself, and that would then alleviate more heat from the barrel being drawn down quicker. Okay, as you can see, my engine runs really cool. I've done a lot of work on cooling to bring engine temperatures down. I mean, okay, the ambient temperature is 20 degrees today, and that's not too hot, and I've got a little bit of drizzle about, so that's helping a bit as well. But my engine temperatures are really good. They're really kept down well. I see people posting on Facebook and things that they've got silly temperatures like 220 Celsius on the motorway and 180 round town. That's insane temperatures. You're running way too hot, way too hot. You're verging on just melting your engine, mate, because you're getting that temperature on the top of your head. Your engine temperature inside is even hotter, and you're verging on melting pistons and seizing. You've got to bring your engine temperatures down. If you want reliability, you want better fuel consumption, everything works better, you have less friction, less wear on the engine, everything becomes better when you control engine temperature. So, hope you enjoyed the video. See you all later.
I am so tired.